dreadfully distinct against the dark, a tall white fountain plate.
Cells.
Cells.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
Cells.
Interlinked.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Admiral Teag show. I've got my friend Captain Petty here. Captain, welcome.
Oh, Admiral, today's going to be all sunshine and rainbows.
We are on Deep Space Nine, which is a Bajoran station, and Captain Petty, myself, and the fleet destroyed 4 new Trek Constellation class abominations. And we did we rescue any of the prisoners? Any of the people who survived?
No,
we didn't rescue anybody. In fact, we sent out our crews for phaser training on all survivors. Commodore Kurtzman, we're coming for your fleet. We're coming for new Trek. You can't beat us. But first, we're going to continue our discussion on Blade Runner. And because we're kind of backward guys, we're going to go with 2049 first and reverse engineer why Captain Petty and I have come to feel somewhat differently on this topic.
Somewhat
but first,
differently.
Captain, I want to read you a news article.
Great.
This is much like we did to set up Blade Runner, the original movie, where I read the news release from the death of T.E. Malula, the giant turtle given by Captain Cook, the explorer, to the King of Tonga. So, you ready?
No, but please proceed.
Coco, the western lowland
Los
gorilla who
Angeles,
learned to
California.
speak sign language and loved kittens, has
June
died. The Gorilla
21st, 2018. A year before the movie? Yeah. All right. Coco, the gorilla whose apparent aptitude for sign language endeared her to fans in the world, died today. According to the Gorilla Foundation, which oversaw her care, she was 46. Coco became an instant celebrity in her youth thanks to the facility with an early facility with American Sign Language. That fame was bolstered over the years as Coco, a western lowland gorilla, charmed entertainers like Fred Rogers and Robin Williams, as well as their audiences. You know, they said the monkey was very upset when they found out that Robin Williams had passed.
Really?
Yeah. It signed that it was very sad. The thing is,
oh, just look at that giant smile on Robin's face as he gets a big gorilla hug. And, you know, so much has been said about Robin's gigantic heart, and I can tell you firsthand, he did have a gigantic heart, how he loved and cared so deeply for everybody he knew. Well, that love extended.
the gorilla was around long enough for the signs to be consistent. They knew this gorilla was really communicating. This was for real. This was not some trick. Anyway, Coco touched the lives of millions as an ambassador for all gorillas and an icon for interspecies communication and empathy, the Gorilla Foundation said in a statement. She was beloved and will be deeply missed. Now, they do not preserve the body as far as I know. It's not going to the Royal Museum in Auckland, where it belongs. Tell me, what do you think of Coco, the sign language chip?
Oh, we're gonna do a. I'm supposed to associate this with Blade Runner 2049 because I can go on if you would like.
Yes, you have the floor.
So,
But first, you should
Oh,
like
here.
and follow
okay,
our channel. Go ahead.
your channel.
It's ours now.
All right. So, Blade Runner 2049, we have severely different opinions. I think it's pure genius. We'll get to the think therefore I am debacle, which I think that you haven't seen past. So
What the
Coco,
hell does that mean?
As you said, was actually distraught by the death of Robin Williams. How human is human? What separates one sentient being from another? Between, like, especially a replicant being hunted down.
That's why I chose this story.
Yeah.
I thought a long time about this.
And I think we know what the answer is. The answer is emotions.
Emotions.
And
you're talking about
about
emotions, which is a theme in Blade Runner 2049.
And I think that's what makes that movie not perfect, but the themes in Blade Runner 2049, I would say they definitely meet, and some moments exceed the original, which I have stated is my favorite movie of all time.
We have...
And it's also the best. I'm so lucky that my favorite and the best happen to be the same movie.
I
Not
think
because I
that
have great
Blade Runner
taste.
is one of the best movies ever. And you asked me a question last time I failed to answer. The two genres that we're mixing are sci-fi and film noir detective.
Yes.
And it is fantastic film noir. One of the best film noir movies ever made. And I don't know how film noir 2049 is, because that wasn't what the director wanted.
There's moments, especially when he's hunting for ladies of the night.
I would agree.
And when he's on the set of the original Blade Runner.
Basically, they recreated the original Blade Runner set.
Looking for a...
Was there an Atari sign anywhere in this one?
I know there was definitely
for
Sony. There's a couple, but none of the... we'll talk about the Blade Runner curse in the post-amble.
By the way, I will say this. I watched both movies to get ready for this. I need another pass through on 2049 because it's compelling enough, but it is a much longer movie.
I don't know. It just feels longer because there's a lot more going on in 2049.
1 hour longer.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It flew
It
by.
is 1 full hour longer.
It flew by. And I watched it on my phone, which was agonizing. Putting that type of art through that low resolution.
Denis
with
Villeneuve.
commercials.
Now he's French, so is it Denis or Dennis?
Is he French?
I don't know. Villeneuve is a French name.
Is it?
Yeah, it absolutely is.
I know Villanueva is a Dominican name.
Right, but Dennis Villanueva just doesn't seem to work.
I mean, I'm sure there's a
not unless you're an American.
Dennis Villanueva. If you're listening to this, shout out to you.
And William Shatner, if you're listening, I will be coming to see you on February 11th.
And I think it might be both of us. Because
it's a very big possibility.
Yeah, I think I'm going to buy a ticket for that. I need to see this man.
Starting
live.
as low as $49.
I can go. I want to be right there. I want to be heckled. I want to be heckled by William
Go
Shatner.
up against the best, right? He's got
right.
90 years of heckling experience.
So, 2049. When you heard there was a sequel for Blade Runner, what went through your heart and soul?
I was pretty charged up. I was very happy. The thing that made me happiest was that it was a sequel, not a prequel. And when I saw the movie, I was enormously pleased with the movie because someone had finally made a movie of Philip K. Dick source material that didn't defile the source. Now, this is simply because now we're two steps away.
There is no source.
There's no book called Blade Runner. It's a retitling of A Do Androids
Dream of
Electric Sheep, which is the book you should get. And I think it's famous enough under its own name in its own right now. But they first thing I would have to say is, let's just take it back a step for 1 second. The term Blade Runner is not in the book.
Neither is the term replicant. They're called Andes.
They are called... I think they're called Nexus 6s, too.
They're called
androids,
I think
Andes,
they're referenced,
robots, replicants.
It's been a while, but they're not. They have their street name as well.
Now, and that was one thing about the cut of Blade Runner. I watched the final cut, which is the better one. But
best.
I did go back and watch some of the narration that they cut. And some of it really was horrible. And I'm not going to use the actual word. I'm going to use the polite form. But Harrison Ford, when he meets his boss, the unnecessary dialogue of... He said, Bryant. Is it Brian or Bryant? It's Bryant, right?
I think it's Brian.
It's spelled Bryant in the book, but he keeps calling him Brian.
Well, he also... There's... M-bombs are dropped in the original Blade Runner is what we're trying to say.
That was my profession.
The N word in their society is skin job.
Yes.
And that's because I guess Philip K. Dick had already decided, and he did not front load this into the book, and in a way it's a mistake in his story, that most people have a lot of empathy for the replicants. And also, if you leave Earth to go to Mars, you get a replicant, so you won't be lonely.
That is another
and that's
thing
where these replicants come from.
About the first one doesn't really it doesn't really fall apart for me, but in the real world, which is our
book or the movie.
In the movie, we're here to talk about the movie. In the original movie, there's no sympathy whatsoever for the replicants whatsoever. I feel from the human side at least. So, as a human myself, in the real world, watching this, the whole movie is held together by our sympathy in the end for Roy Batty, the main replicant, as he finally appreciates life, that Deckard finally learns to appreciate, and that's the whole theme of the movie. This replicated man's life is only 4 years, and then he obviously appreciates the life that we take for granted. Now, in
the first movie is flawless, really, in a lot of ways. I mean, to say flawless in a lot of ways is to buy back the idea it's flawless, but you know, everything could probably be a little better. I think Philip K. The fact the movie was re-edited so many times, but
it was also there was a couple of plot holes that were fixed by the number of replicants that were left alive.
Right. The math is all wrong.
And people also how there's really no narrative. People say, I consider it more of like a pathetic, sad slice of life movie. He's a civil servant.
We actually just sort of
who's obviously an alcoholic, who's bad with women, very bad with women.
Now is he an alcoholic because he's programmed to be an alcoholic?
See, that's the beauty of the second movie. My first
because that replicant likes a good drink.
Yes,
but he's not a drunk.
No,
at all. In fact, he's kind of one of those guys who digs control.
But that's the beauty of the second movie. There is one thing that kind of fails with the second movie. We'll talk about that. So my initial reaction when I heard the sequel to Blade Runner is, how bad is this going to suck? How much robot nonsense? How much punching? How much nonsense? How much shitty action's going to be in to make it universally acceptable? And when I was sitting in the theater and that first hour goes by and I realized that there's not going to be any action and all the punchy stuff is in the beginning and there's very little. By the way, speaking of punching, Harrison Ford could throw a punch at the age of 70. Jesus fucking Christ. Sorry, we can't curse enough.
No, we can curse.
Good.
We've been at this more than 2 or 3 minutes.
And I will.
The bots are no longer actively checking for profanity. That's a pro tip for your other YouTubers out there. The Admiral cares.
Yeah, mention China and Russia initially, but don't curse.
I'm going to pause this just for a moment to present Captain Petty with something that every Admiral has to have a fleet captain. And I am giving my fleet captain his official log and log pen. That is your writ of command, Captain.
Wow.
Captain, when we have these conversations from now on, you can keep these notes.
Captain
Petty.
Well, do you remember
H?
Yes.
Nelson.
H. Nelson. Petty H. Nelson. I'm going to do
H.
Petty
Nelson
H.
Petty. H. Nelson Petty works.
Well, that's not
Nelson's
what I wrote.
like a first name. No. Guess what? I'm not actually an admiral, but Teag is my name.
So back to Blade Runner. Thank you, by the way, Admiral.
I've just since we've had Captain Petty aboard, a lot of good things have happened to this channel, and we still have old standbys like the Admiral Teag interview series.
Yeah. So the best thing about this podcast is we don't talk about ourselves for too long. So back to Blade Runner 2049.
We've self-related enough. Back to the matter at hand, 2049.
So the running theme of this film is the once again the push and pull of humanity of what now we're told up front that this is a fake person, a replicated man, as I like to say, which is one of my favorite missions in Fallout 3 for the PS2. 3?
Now,
3.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
When you found out that it was a fake guy right away,
I was disappointed.
I felt like they should have teased it out longer.
I was disappointed.
I wanted to find out in about 20 minutes. That would have been a good first dramatic beat for the movie, but instead they're like, here's a balloon, let's let the air out of it.
I was
It's
disappointed.
still a really beautiful balloon.
Because, as was once said, I hate things that are different. I don't like different.
I make a particular kind of film.
I fear change. We fear change. That's supposed to be Garth, but it's not.
Well,
I was actually pissed off because I'm like, I'm a human. This guy's a robot. I can't relate to him. And then they get you again once they get to his apartment, and his beautiful girlfriend shows up, and you get Joy, which we're trying to figure out.
J-O-I. Now I came up with my anagram for Joy, which was jerk off immediately, because wow, she's beautiful.
Well, they actually, first of all, let's
But she's just so fake, too. As fake as the horrible food that he eats, masquerading it as a burger and fries.
The lady of the night in this movie is very attractive as well. But so then you get two
You're talking about the blonde chick?
God, yes.
Now, is she real? Because she's playing games with whether or not she is.
so ambiguous. This movie is great. But, okay. So then there's two fake outs.
I would say this, that Coco was also great. Now, here's the thing. There's not a big difference except sign language between Coco and Harambe. Now, if Coco the sign language chimp was still in good condition, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the western lowland gorilla.
Yeah.
And it was threatening to kill a child. Would anybody hesitate to blow Coco the lowland gorilla sign language chimp's brains out for the lowliest human?
I mean, Coco
Is any animal worth the lowliest human? Assuming we're not talking about somebody convicted of multiple.
I've seen some lowly humans before, and as myself, even though I'm a captain, I feel like I have contributed less to the world than Coco the gorilla.
That's possibly true because you've never made Robin Williams happy.
Never.
And you never will.
Isn't that sad?
I'm going to tell you that right now.
Okay.
Spoiler alert!
Back to Blade Runner 2049.
Right.
One
Okay,
of the
we're
greatest
talking of
sequels
joy.
ever. Joy.
Not the emotion, the android.
So there's-
Or the at this point, she's a hologram.
Yes. So she's always a hologram. So
No, she gets some
still a
ability.
hologram. Still a.
They pull the Star Trek Discovery,
it could be-
Star Trek Voyager doctor thing.
It could be mobile. He
Right,
has a
that's
little
the
remote in his pocket.
upgrade. That's the upgrade.
We'll get
He's
to
constantly
that-
upgrading Joy, which I thought was a great
We'll
plot thing.
We'll get to the plot point that ruins the movie for me at the end. So now, right? So now he goes back to the apartment. It seems that Joy, who's a hologram, actually has more emotions than Kay, who's the lead of this movie, played by oh my God, what's his name? Cutie Pie. Man,
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling, who's actually the star of the second best movie ever made, Drive. Which I love that we're gonna pigeon-tail into a lot of
He
discussions.
actually he doesn't.
Second best movie ever made.
Ryan Gosling doesn't have a sister. That's just him in drag.
What are you talking about?
Is it Ryan Gosling who has a sister, or is that some other celebrity?
You're thinking of the Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, they look exactly the same.
They do.
I want to know this. Is Ryan Gosling actually Aaron Rodgers, quarterback of the Green Bay Packers?
Who also looks like CM Punk, former WWE and AEW champion.
And do all these men who purport themselves to be heterosexual, are they not?
They're in
in
Hollywood.
fact, they're
They're
pretty
not.
I'm not that sure how heterosexual some of these guys are, especially Karen Rodgers after seeing the way the Jets fucked them up.
Space. Space gets lonely. Anyway.
You know what's lonely? The robots on Mars,
Well,
which is a
well,
beat
how about
that we don't repeat in 2049.
How about we try to stay on topic?
I'm going back to topic. On 2049, there's no allure of off-world. We don't talk about it.
Yes, there is. It's actually mentioned almost immediately after he leaves his apartment in another blimp that's flying over the city when he
There
goes back
is
to
a
the
lot of
apartment.
advertising. Is that what it's advertising?
Off-world, let's go to the colonies is the rant that's in the first movie. But let's get back to the distinction of feelings and emotions and replicants in Blade Runner 2049. In the first movie, they're almost like children. They're almost like they're in the bodies of these 30-something.
In fact, that's why they get the fake memories.
Yes. So
in fact, Terrell says they're childlike.
To keep them in, because they have memories, but their emotions are underdeveloped.
And remember, they like in the prime of their career, when they're like say 2.5, 3 years old, they've got as much life experience as a 2.5-year-old. So,
but also they have the intelligence of a 30-year-old.
Philip K. Dick's Terrell.
It's fucking genius, is what it is.
Or Ridley Scott's Terrell. It was a different name in the book.
In this film, it's by the Wallace the corporation the replicants are made by. They're given memories, but they're able to keep their emotions in check. There is a baseline test that they do after they're sent to do their owner's bidding. This guy is a cop who's a Blade Runner himself, who's suspiciously wearing the exact same clothing as Harrison Ford was.
What the hell does that mean?
It's very similar.
It's almost like maybe Harrison Ford character Deckard was a replicant.
It's almost like the wardrobe department was very clever.
So the plot of this movie is that there's an underlying resistance of replicants who are freeing themselves from being scanned in the left eye, scooping it out, as you see the leader of the resistance later in the film. So bones are found where Kay goes. Kay finds.
I want to set the scene for this. The first replicant we see
is Dave Bautista,
and his
former WWE champion.
Yeah,
Dave
he's immediately
Bautista.
recognizable for who he is. I wanted to point that out.
Royal Rumble winner, I believe.
Was he? You would know more about that than me. You're the wrestling expert, but I recognize him immediately for what he was. And I'll say this: he's as fine an actor as Rowdy
He is
Piper, and a better actor than The Rock.
Well, yeah, he's a one-trick pony, The Rock.
Yeah.
Well, but Dave
People's
Bautista,
eyebrow is about all he's
Dave
got.
Bautista used to be a no-trick pony because they didn't let him talk in Skyfall. So, Kay is sent to retire Dave Bautista's character. I forgot the guy's name. And it happens.
It's unimportant, but that's the most
They
engaging
find
and nicest, most urbane person in the world.
Yeah, and he's a giant man, and he hardly puts up a fight against Kay. So they find a box of bones on this man's property. Do not cut me off. On this man's property that belongs to
I just want to
Rachel
point out
of
the
Blade
way they
Runner
find the
2019.
bones.
They
It's
find
really
it
cool.
by a beautiful. Oh, they scan the entire. The
A
technology
drone detaches from the top of his
car and pops out.
and it has like ground penetrating radar.
I wish you could
it
all.
was fucking
I
cool.
wish you could all see Admiral Teag slowly convincing himself by accident that this movie is fucking genius.
No,
which
I
it
think the
is.
movie's genius. I just don't think it's a legitimate successor to Blade Runner 1.
So well, let's set the scene, and then you could explain. You could
I
explain.
also
to me
think it's a
why.
4-star, not a 5-star movie, but that's
It's
pretty
a,
high.
It's a 4.7 star movie. And
It's
we'll
a
get
10-star movie for enjoyability.
We will get to why it falls apart. It's a Blade Runner sequel, but it's not. It doesn't fall apart as a Blade Runner. It falls apart because what I feared the most was not the action. I realized what I feared the
I mean,
most.
the lack of action.
I love the lack of action because this movie doesn't need action. For me, the emotions are the action. If you actually pay attention to this movie and see the roller coaster this man is going on. So let's get back to the bones. He finds the bones.
I would have cannibalized. I gotta say this one because we didn't get our second movie from this franchise. And whenever I talk it in that way, I start to drift into my imitation of Mike from Red Letter. We didn't get our second movie from this franchise. So, like, my mind always ruminates on that. You know, like, what were they going to tell us?
They don't need to tell this, and this movie ends perfectly. It ends with stuff up in the air. So there's two ways I thought they could have gone about this movie. One, like they could have where they went and have another human protagonist. I
Right.
thought it would be a sympathetic human protagonist for once, and the mystery was say to find who
Deckard is a pathetic protagonist.
Yes, but you're not letting me get to the plot. So they find the bones of Rachel from the first movie, and it turns out that this woman, who's a replicant, had a child, and the child is either going to be the reason why they're able to prove that replicants are just as worthy as humans, or Wallace, who owns the former Tyrell Corporation, needs to find this child because then he could reproduce replicants and still use them as slave labor. And basically, he's one of those maniacal villains that is doing something. He's like what Facebookers perceive Elon Musk to be, an evil man who's only trying to do.
I want to talk about Wallace for a minute.
All right.
I want to set this up. You ready?
Yeah.
This is what I like about Wallace. Wallace is blind.
No, he's not.
He can see through the use of a flock of what I call electronic geese.
I feel like that was a elective surgery he's done to himself. The cute with the little adorable Tamagotchis that fly.
They're amazing, and this is the deal with Jared Leto's Wallace character. Right? Perhaps he was blind, perhaps it was an accident, perhaps he was born that way, perhaps he chose it, but he's essentially blind. And the way he sees the world is he has a flock, which would just be about, let's say, 8.
I was the little Tamagotchis,
Six-
the flying black
6 to 8.
with the cute little clicky noises.
They look like black earbuds hovering in the air with great stability, but the thing is they will move in a coordinated fashion towards something, and they're always kind of clicking and communicating and chirping to each other, and they precede him into any room, and he kind of knows what's going to happen before it happens. And he's
Even
also
better than seeing.
Yeah, it might be even better than seeing. So maybe you got something with that. But I want to say, we ruined this scene by doing something we ruined both scenes with two very stupid things. The Rachel scene we ruined with a very stupid thing. Do you remember the moment of stupid where you had to say fucking what the fuck?
No, I actually love the Rachel scene because they're
No, not the Rachel recreation. The Rachel autopsy. Real Rachel.
Okay, so where he miraculously finds the serial number?
That was so fucking stupid that it made me angry.
Yes, that fell apart for me.
That was
Why
when
would
the Admiral urinated during the movie. I walked out and urinated. I said, "This has already been 35 minutes. I'm gonna piss."
So
'Cause I got 2 hours left
something
here.
needs to be going. It's one of those things that in a movie where when you watch the movie for the first time, you're like, oh wow, but then you watch it the second time, like I did. or the third time, like we have, and I'm like, wow, is that just luck? Or he knows where the serial number is on old replicants? Well, probably. He's probably done an
No,
autopsy
he found
before.
it by mistake.
They found it by mistake, but he's done an autopsy on replicants before, and the serial number just happens to be in the same place.
Here's the thing, though. Rachel's not a Nexus 6 or anything else.
It's
She's
above.
a Rachel.
Yes.
She's a Rachel .0.
Yes, I agree. So that it's obviously so the part of this now there's two sides that it builds up on each side, Wallace side and the replicant side, which we get introduced to later in the film. But the big thing about this is who is this child? And also we're seeing reflection back
Well,
into
the question
caveman.
is,
You need to let me do the summary.
Wait, I need to know this. Can we tell now if a woman's had a baby from her skeleton?
There was a breaking. I think it was there was some scarring on the inside of her pelvis.
This was not an easy birth, and it cost the mother her life.
Something like okay, because
That
Rachel
was
died during
that was
childbirth.
an important thing to
We
get
didn't
out
bring
there.
that up yet. So now we need to find out where this child is. You win this time, Admiral. We need to find out where this child is. So now we're being shown scenes of a small wooden horse that are apparently Kay's memories.
Right, and this part was done really well.
So he goes back to the site where the bones were found and finds a date on that's carved on the tree where the bones were, which happens to also be Kay's birthday.
By
Now,
the way, that at
suspicions
least made sense, though, that he
It
found
does.
that there. That was so much better than, let me turn off my machine and, oh my god, I almost missed this fucking VIN number on
Yeah.
this thing.
So suspicions increase that, oh great, this guy is Harrison Ford and Rachel's son, isn't it? Isn't it? So I immediately in the theater go like, okay, I see where this is kind of going. So then he goes to visit this woman who can't leave her bubble. She has like an immune deficiency. So she actually she makes these memories. So she's able to see what his memories are.
And it is, I will say this, it is interesting watching whatever it is they created
Yes.
for her to wrought these memories.
So-
in this world, she's an artist.
Yes.
Honestly, and she's treated like she's an artist. Now tell anyone who hasn't seen it, just tell them about her environment and her limitations.
So she is in this facility. She's been in there since she was 8 years old. She can't leave, and she's
Like
gifted.
Mucolacaducus disease.
She is gifted with an incredible imagination, which is actually keeping her entertained and giving her she's able to make memories and environments around her in this it is exactly a holodeck.
She has a holodeck.
It's a holodeck.
It's the size of a
So-
studio apartment.
So conveniently, there's a machine that could read replicants' memories and tell you if the memories. That's another thing that I felt was very coincidental.
Yeah,
coincidental.
this movie has a lot of contrivances,
yeah.
especially that when they crammed in that
But
third hour.
What I need to express the most is yes, it has all these conveniences in it, but this movie is so visually stunning.
It is.
It gives everything. It gives all the scenery time to breathe. It gives every moment time to breathe. Some people would call this slow and boring, but those people,
I was angry at people who accused the movie being slow and
It
boring.
is slow and boring. It's fucking great.
I accused them of not being able to accept a medium-paced movie. It's a very good medium tempo movie. It's not a slow movie. There are slow movies, and that wasn't one of them.
If you wanna
Blade
see-
Runner 2049 is a medium tempo movie. It's paced much like the middle non-combat segments
Now
of
that
Saving Private Ryan.
Now that I think of with slow-paced movies such as The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Eraserhead, those are slow.
That's very slow. Eraserhead, the most disturbing film of all time. Maybe that baby. The only thing that fucked me up as much as that baby was the 2 minutes in Train Spotting with that baby. So I mean, if we ever make a movie, we're putting a dead baby on screen because it fucks people up.
Immediately, we're putting it dead.
I am not recovered.
Narc, starring Ray Liotta,
Right.
also Dead Baby, Dead Baby in a Microwave.
What the hell does that
If you want a list of dead baby movies, please look at the description below.
You want to feel bad about a baby dying? See Dear Jeremy.
Listen, I do think that we need to one-up each other one day with the most disturbing movie we can think of. I think I'll win.
A long way to beat Dear Jeremy.
Happiness and Gummo, I think are. Have you heard of these films?
No, but I would say they couldn't possibly be worse than The Last Jedi. Anyway, back
to
fucking
2049.
2049.
So,
a year rapidly approaching, and in 2049, someone will be unfortunate enough to hear this podcast. And please leave us a comment when you do.
So, the convenience machine, the memory reader, he puts his face in it, and it's the memory of the horse again being burned in some sort of, in a furnace in some sort of facility. And
we're skipping a lot of shitty characters along the way,
yes,
like the Oliver Twist workshop of broken computers.
And we'll talk about the quasi-sexy replicant lady that's Wallace's hench lady.
The I'm the Captain guy has a fucking child slavery workshop where he's slaving children. That's like a 20-minute detour in this movie. Sometimes it does take you in a bad.
And we'll also get into Robin Wright's character, who's the
Robin
police chief.
Wright was the least appealing character in this movie.
She was that's another beautiful thing about this movie. She is so inhuman that she makes Kay. We see this horrible police chief treat him like
she was human.
Not even an animal. She actually treats he's a replicant, so she treats him like a Roomba, like a vacuum cleaner, and talks to him
she's obviously had sex with a few times.
You think?
I was obvious.
That's some hate fucking.
I was obvious. Also,
I hate the chief of police.
And also, in a childlike way, because they only give Kay, like, say, sometimes he's as smart as a college graduate, but on the norm and in the world, he's like a 12-year-old.
Like a Suffolk County
smart 12-year-old. Yes, I went to, it's a very strange thing that they put the school for the smartest people in New York in one of New York's strangest counties. Suffolk County is just fucking weird. It's rich people who go to pretend to be poor living on the beach.
The smartest people in New York City moved above Westchester so they don't have to get charged those taxes.
Smartest people in New York City are in this apartment.
Back to Blade Runner 2049. Comedy hour is not over, but let's continue. So now, let's get back to the memories.
She made me forgive Sean Penn a little.
Okay,
we made it up.
Oh my god. So the memory maker reads Kay's memories and assures him that those memories are real. The horse toy, the birthday, everything coincide. By the way, I forgot to mention his birthday is also written on the bottom of the horse. The wooden horse is his memory.
And he starts to get this delusion that he is not a gingerbread man,
and he might be a human.
Or as they put it in the movie,
a real boy. So now here comes the you watch this the third time when she starts laying things on pretty thick that she puts a little piece of herself in her work. Hey, maybe that horse memory is hers, you think? It slaps you across your face.
Rachel's daughter, who's such a memorable character.
Spoiler alert.
Deckard and Rachel's daughter, the person this plot revolves around, is such a memorable character that her name is...
What?
I don't remember.
I forgot.
Either.
Oh, okay.
Last night.
I only remember Ryan Gosling's character name because it's one letter.
Name is Kay,
yeah.
And everyone else I called by their name, including Harrison Ford. Yeah. But I called him Harrison Ford when I watched the movie the first time. I was like, so Harrison Ford's having sex with his robots. See?
Now that we're actually getting somewhere with this discussion. So now here comes the genius of the movie. He thinks he might be human. So he starts screaming. For the first time in the movie, he's showing emotion. This man has gotten punched in the face by Dave Bautista, former WWE champion, man. Getting talked down to by his boss. He's trying to get information out of people. He's talking. He's being talked down to.
Like shit.
Yeah. So no, actually, she treats him quite lovely.
Yeah,
so
it's patronizing.
So now the best part of the point in this movie where I realized I was watching a masterpiece is when he screams, "God damn it!" He has an emotion.
Now I'm gonna stop you right here.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
No,
he has an emotion because he thinks he's
entire movie. That's what I had to say.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. He has an emotion because he thinks that he's supposed to have an emotion. So now he needs to find where this child is because it's his job, and two, he wants to find out if he is this child. So he goes to an old orphanage, pressures the guy who runs it, which is basically a child sweatshop now. And miraculously, the dates when he was supposedly in this facility,
kind of roughly match up.
all the
with where
paperwork
Wendy's
is all
supposed to be.
gone. So
Yes, we've had a J.J. Abrams event in this movie. There's been a canon wipe in World by Denis Villeneuve that I did not care for.
Okay,
and was another
I wanna hear
boring
this.
fucking rabbit hole.
I want to hear this.
The snap.
What
we
snap?
lose all our records.
Okay.
There's like a 5-year period. Okay, so something fucking happens again. And Denis Villeneuve takes it too far again, and he remains far too vague. And we needed to know what the fuck happened to cause this massive EMP thing.
I disagree.
Nobody has any records before a certain year.
Would you like me to explain?
Sometime after 2018, what happened?
Well, what happens is
my folks.
they're looking for Rachel and they're looking for Deckard. So, spoiler alert, they dump the kid in the orphanage. And he digs through the furnace, and miraculously finds the wooden horse that he's been dreaming of his entire life, which we actually don't know how long he's been alive, that has his birthday on it.
And in the theater, I immediately thought this can't be real.
But we find out that
It's not.
it's not. So
And then there's a fight scene.
and then so
This movie has everything, folks.
so now
Except a real
the bones
ending.
of Rachel are at the police station, and there's a quasi-sexy hench lady of Wallace's who pulls up the old Voight-Comp test from Blade Runner 2019.
And it's cooler
that's
looking now.
That's what sets the stage for us looking for Deckard and looking for Rachel. Because now we're realizing that Rick Deckard, former Blade Runner, is the only person that probably knows where his own kid is. So
Right,
now
but
we get
there's
to
been an event that has destroyed all records.
yes,
remember?
it's called people hunting. Oh, yes,
Yes,
you're right. There
I'm
was
talking about the library scene where
Yes.
he goes and we have the uncomfortable, cringy conversation.
Yes, I'm very sorry.
With the very gender weird.
I was home with my folks, and 10 days of darkness. Every machine stopped cold. When the lights came back, we were wiped clean. Photos, files, every bit of data, gone.
Librarian
Back records
who
too.
has some sort of weird story that he needs to impart. Like he's the fucking most mouthy lip.
So the real-
He's supposed to be quiet in libraries, but not this guy.
So there was like a Thanos
event.
snap with all computers on Earth, and so everything was conveniently erased.
Now there's a scientific explanation on the tip of my tongue that everyone knows. It's called electromagnetic pulse, and it would happen if we had a limited nuclear war where, say, we didn't nuke directly, but let's say we all wanted to fuck with each other and we didn't want to nuke and kill. Well, we could nuke way over, like space over Moscow, and erase every hard drive and every computer and turn on briefly every microwave with the level of electromagnetic pulse and blow up every electronic circuit in that country.
So
On or off, by
See,
the way, we would
now-
deplete every circuit in the country.
Before this
But
discussion,
no human would be harmed.
you've repeatedly told me that there was supposed to be planned sequels for this.
There was definitely
I'm pretty
supposed to be one
sure
more
we would
movie.
find out that this information wipe was purely to try to cover up the fact that they're looking for a child born of a replicant womb.
It felt so J.J. Abrams.
Well, yes and no. We can't just take all bad screenwriting as J.J. Abrams.
Taking something
Esque.
and just punching a hole through the middle of the canon so you can get around explaining things is just J.J. Abrams to the max. That is J.J. Abrams. He was conceived by a sperm that was part of an action sequence that got around all substance. The night of sex that conceived J.J. Abrams had no dinner or drinks. That guy was crafty. He didn't spend any money knocking up his wife.
So now we're trying to. There's a test of DNA.
The thing is that
child,
it
and they found
represents
that there's duplicate
infinite
DNA.
possibility.
One boy and one girl. So he goes back to get his baseline
And now
test.
we're all making logical
Yes.
conclusions in our mind, and
That-
the movie's good with that.
So now,
It's a good
now
thinking
there's,
movie.
now we're thinking. Now you're at this point, even though we already revealed who the child actually is. Now at this point in the film, he's starting to suspect
well
that maybe
past the
he
point
isn't.
where you can see this movie
He
virtually.
isn't the baby that they're looking for. But now he's telling them that the baby was found, which is him. He just can't
Officer
reveal that
K,
information, or
D6
they're just going to dissect him.
Reset your baseline.
So he gets a baseline test and
Now, the
completely goes
baseline
haywire.
tests
Is to see where his
work.
emotions are at.
And it consists of
Performing your duties,
repeating
they keep you in a
phrases
little
back
box.
to a
Cells.
harsh male voice,
Aggressive.
while looking at like an Apple fucking iPad.
You're aggressively spoken to, and then you're given a phrase afterwards that you have to repeat. The way that you repeat that phrase reads what your emotional response to the previous sentence was. It's a baseline test for emotions. He's way off the baseline, and what happens if you're way off the baseline as a replicant? I'm pretty sure
What's
you
it like
go
to hold the hand of someone you love?
you get
Interlinked.
I
You
think
get-
the implication was
They put the
that-
horse down and make him into glue.
I don't know why you didn't sit in an electric chair while you took this
Yeah.
test, considering how dangerous you would be
Yeah.
if you're off baseline.
We see
They
what
teach you
happens.
how to do
Yeah,
finger
it,
to finger,
it doesn't work
interlinked.
out well for anyone.
So he needs to escape, and Robin Wright lets him go bye-bye. And he's like, I can let you go for now, but just find me the way. She needs that kid. She wants that
another
kid.
reason why I think she
'Cause
sometimes has sex with him.
But that's another thing. Her entire motivation is just that she's like, I need to keep order. That's all her motivation is. So you know what? I'll take it. Maybe she's just one of those. She looks like she hasn't gotten correctly shtupped by a human in a while. So I'll
was
take
married
that.
to Sean Penn.
So now every Blade Runner movie needs to have
Probably not.
Every Blade Runner movie needs to have an awkward sex scene. And if you think for 1 minute, 1 second that I'm making this up, you're wrong. He goes back to his apartment. His hologram girlfriend rented the super hot blonde prostitute, who is actually charged with the task of hunting for him because she's part of the replicant. She's part of the replicant
She's like
uprising.
the Internal Affairs Bureau
So
of the
remember, if you
replicants who hate
have an
replicants.
uprising, you make sure you have a sexy hooker because obviously what happens is
And she's based off Chris.
they have a fucking three-way. There's a robot, human, hologram three-way.
And this is basically every way you can have every kind of life form we know.
Awesome.
It's an eye
Yes.
and two AIs.
Yes, because he basically forces himself on Rachel in the first movie, which when you're younger you think is kind of sexy, and then you see it's kind of rapey.
No,
But
I
then
thought like I can't rape an
It
inflatable woman.
It looked like a pathetic man, basically
You
jumping.
don't go to someone's house in the middle of the night, 4 hours after they tell you you're drunk, to have a conversation about fucking Italy.
I've had a lot of interactions like that, and when the woman showed up at my house, I assure you, I did not have to do any convincing.
And she wasn't crying having freshly murdered a robot either.
So they bang, they wake up in the morning.
They came over after her delivery.
The hologram is a little jealous and basically kicks the prostitute out, but not before the prostitute puts a tracking device on Kay, Ryan Gosling.
Which Joy somehow fails to see, although she's omnipresent and has control of like every other AI. In
We're
the
gonna get to the
department.
thing that. Okay, so now all these themes of what is humanity and these these robots.
We need to say this. The currency in this world, if you're a robot,
Yeah.
and you work as a cop, and you have a pretty simple mind, enough to solve crimes, but not, so complicated that you'll start a revolution.
I'm desperately
they
trying to
think.
hold on to my thought because this is completely
do your
unrelated to
thought
what I was
then.
trying to
Do your
say.
thought
All right, so it's time for the obligatory. Let's put Harrison Ford in this movie somehow. So there is a remote device now
It wasn't very cleverly
that keeps Joy. A remote device that it keeps her off like this rail on her
That's why
ceiling.
Actually, it speaks to your point. In this world, if you're a robot who hunts people and robots and stuff, the currency for you is to have a robot girlfriend, and you're rewarded with the ability to upgrade that girlfriend.
You've tied it into my point. Excellent.
And he has now upgraded Joy to the point where she can leave the apartment with him as like a key fob.
So now they're looking for him. So now they're like, listen, you need to. There's the device on the wall, and there's the handheld device. Now it's like you're gonna have to delete me off of the wall device, and then he's like, well, if anything happens to this fob, you're gone. She's like, that's like basically it's like a risk I'm willing to take, which makes her life more precious.
She's
now
not as human as the rest of us.
What really bothers me is he's a replicant, right? He's very strong. You can't rip that thing off the wall and then hide it somewhere with the memories of her. So anyway, it just puts these.
They don't have a hard drive. Yeah, when you make a
that
sci-fi
bothered
movie,
me,
when
yeah.
you make a sci-fi movie and your tech is worse than ours now,
Yeah.
you fucking fail.
No,
you fucking
but-
failed. You're supposed to amaze me, or at least not make me say I can do that easier.
I screamed at the TV. Just rip that fucking thing off the wall and hide it somewhere.
Star Trek 2, The Wrath
You
of
found
Khan.
bones underneath the tree. If you go back to Batista's house and bury it there, they're not going to go back to the same anyway. So guess what time it is, guys?
There's no technology that I really question in Blade Runner 1.
It's not that the technology I question. First of all, I question why there's goggles in the memory lady's bubble to read replicant memories, unless a replicant shows up and says, "Please read my memories."
I think those are her tools to project the memories
Into the replicant?
Yeah, I think she's holding on to those hand tools that make like an actualization, and she's able to project with her eye. Because
earlier in the film,
we
a
can kind
sexy
of read
lady.
your emotions with computers
Yeah.
in this movie.
So previously in the movie, a sexy lady comes out of the sky in like some plastic with a nice butt, and
She's beautiful.
Wallace
and very
kills her.
naked, and for
Wallace-
she's alive for maybe eight or nine. He births her
Seconds.
so he can kill her.
because she didn't have a womb, she wasn't able to birth more replicants, so he killed her. That's what I gathered. So
I thought that
the
he
lady
killed
comes out
her
of the
to
sack.
show his henchwoman
That
that,
she's
that I
expendable?
have the power of life and death, and also that he himself was almost in a satanic kind of way reveling. He was playing God and loving it. You know, here I am. I'm like, you know, it reminded me of Sam Neill in Event Horizon. He's like
Excellent film.
floating and eyeless and evil.
So
you know,
I mean, that's also the way he just cold blooded kills this replicant after seconds out of being born is like the only reason you would think this guy's a bad guy. So now we have to shoehorn Harrison Ford into this movie. Do you know why?
he's Harrison Ford.
Because we need to put someone needs to be in this movie for someone to go see it, so it'll still underperform.
Until he does, Harrison Ford has to be in every movie.
And now I'm very embarrassed to say this. So he gets his little thing shut down. Obviously there was like some sort of explosive device. And obviously this is coming from Los Angeles, and we're in the desert in Las Vegas. I hate to say this, Admiral. Do you know how long it took me to put together that it was in Las Vegas?
Oh, how long?
It took me 3 viewings to realize it was Las Vegas. And then I'm like, oh, there's a hologram Elvis. Oh, there's booze
I
everywhere.
resented that hologram Elvis deeply, and you know why?
Because they could have picked any Elvis, and they picked fat, pilled up Elvis. Is that why?
No, that wasn't the reason. The reason was that I felt like it was a pander.
Uh-huh.
It was a deep pander to me, because one of the years that the Blade Runner cuts was re-released on video, one of these new cuts that we had to see, and they weren't improving.
1994, I believe,
having
was the
heard
first
the
cut.
narration again, they were fucking horrible.
Yes.
That same year was the year that Elvis went back to #1 with the re-release of all his music on CD.
It was a little
and
bit less
guys
com-
like me were buying it, so there's a reason why. They looked at the 12 to 15-year-olds who saw the first movie, and they tracked them through life, and that part of the movie felt like a fucking car commercial, like
That was
playing
a-
the Smiths. It was like when
So
you know when
people
the
with
car
delusions have these
commercial plays, like,
unusual
something that you
beliefs
like-
that
Yes,
are
and they
clearly
put Audrey
false,
Hepburn
but
back in
they hold
movie-
firmly to this notion that the belief is actually true. Various mental disorders, including schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder, involve patients with delusions of some kind.
car commercial
Although a lot of
plays Paranoid. We're
You-
gonna both jump off the bridge, right?
I feel like that was the most, it's almost delusional, what you're saying right now with Elvis.
What?
That
About
they're
Elvis?
trying to market Elvis through an underperforming
that
sci-fi
Daniel
movie.
I think he was ringing a member berry that was outside the movie.
I think-
by saying that when these people were 20, my audience for this movie.
Thank the Lord's
people
below.
who-
A lot of times, these
Please, if
patients
you
will
got this far in the
present
video,
with
please
other symptoms of
set
psychosis,
this
like
man straight
hallucinations.
about Elvis.
I think that he repeated it because
Delusional
it was a major
disorder, on
event
the
in
other hand, is
lives of the
characterized by
people
someone having
who,
just persistent delusions.
Saw the first movie when they were coming of age, around 21,
I think that's completely.
and it coincides with the re-release of the movie.
I think that's delusional.
It may be delusional. It's a hot take theory.
Okay. So now we're
Every
we're
delusion
in
someone
Las Vegas
has
in a
can either be
hotel.
considered
There's booze
non-bizarre
everywhere,
or bizarre.
and he wants to ask Harrison Ford some questions, obviously about this kid.
And this is what's weird. You say this a lot. He seems like he doesn't want to be there. In this case, he very much wants to be there.
I disagree.
But he can't act. He's acting like Harrison Ford.
So as said by Red Letter Media, probably the best YouTube channel on YouTube, he shows up in a gray T-shirt.
Doomcock.
He shows up in a gray long sleeve shirt and just says lines, and he's sitting down most of the time. They get into a little punchy thing, and they start explaining exactly what happened, why Harrison Ford is alone in the casino, and why Rachel was by herself because they had to split.
Why was that?
Because they need to split up, and basically, he says sometimes the way you could show that someone that you love them is to be a stranger. Meaning, if they found Harrison Ford, they would find Rachel, they would find the baby, and exploit it.
So when we see them taking that ride to the Overlook Hotel at the end of Blade Runner 1, they end up
No
separating.
way, no, that's not stock footage from The Shining, is it?
I love that you knew that, and I'm better for knowing
It is.
that. I'm a better expert on this movie, which for some reason is a pop culture discussion that's been resonating for decades.
So, the big tell that we're on the right track is you see on the bar or a shelf somewhere a bunch of other wooden animals that goes perfectly with the wooden horse that Kay has been holding in his pocket. So now the tracking device ushers in not only Wallace's people who take Deckard, but the Resistance. They leave Cade for dead. The action ensues. Kay goes through a wall. It's pretty cool. So the Resistance kidnaps Kay, and Wallace kidnaps Harrison Ford. So we find out now that the child is a woman. It is not Kay. So this is
female girl child, as my Polish girlfriend said.
So I also have a Polish girlfriend. So now the beauty of this moment is now we are positive that it's not Kay. So the beauty of this movie and why I will forgive it for all these just little nuance, little mistakes, little nitpicks, it shows the beauty of being human. Kay only had emotions that he's not supposed to have because he thought he was human, so he had to have the emotions. But now that he knows that he's not human, he has to reflect that, oh man, I had emotions. I've always had emotions. Maybe these people are right. Maybe these replicants are right because they're all running away from society. They all want to. They're starting.
Do they time out anymore?
That's the thing. They don't anymore because they're able to control their emotions. And Wallace's hubris. Wallace's hubris that he can control these people and not, and have a stranglehold over their emotions. That's why they're looking for the child, because he doesn't have if you create technology, obviously in this universe has gotten so good that you can't control it. It's like Jurassic Park. Life finds a way. So now probably the most beautiful part of the movie is they get Harrison Ford back to the Tyrell Corporation in front of Wallace, and they want that baby. They want to know where that kid is. So the most emotional part of the movie, sadly, is still, first of all, if you're going to dress someone up so nice with all these crazy fashions in Blade Runner 2019, and then you have disgruntled Harrison Ford just sitting there in slacks,
t-shirt and jeans,
and yeah, not even jeans, like slacks. Oh, he's obviously intoxicated. So,
and it's a heavier Harrison than we're used to seeing.
Yes. So out of nowhere, as a bargaining chip, and the only time that Harrison Ford even bothers acting in this entire movie is in excellent CGI representation of Sean Young, the actress Sean Young,
voiced by the actress herself.
Yes, and then Rachel comes out of the black and looks at Harrison Ford in the face. I'm gonna be honest, like this part really got me, especially on the
question I have to ask now.
Oh, go ahead.
Continue your point. Oh, somebody challenged me to this. It's Captain Infinity on another channel. He said that Sean Young is one of the great cinematic beauties of all time.
But okay.
Not enough movies.
Well, you know why she's not enough movies?
Because she was a whack job?
A whack job. So was Margot Kidder, but then Margot Kidder's been in a handful of...
she was like hurting kids.
She didn't leave her like Fredo. That's the best success ratio ever. I forgot the gentleman's name. He's been in 4 movies, and he was in 4 movies, and all of them were nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah,
it's 3 out of 4. Then he died. Then he died, which is great.
I don't want to swap.
Is it better to burn out than to fade away?
As a fade awayer, enjoying the fade. Yeah, no, I like it. It's better to fade away. Fade away, people.
Yeah,
Burning out is overrated.
Burning out is not overrated. Burning out.
You know what? Everyone I know who burned out is dead.
That's what burning out is it not?
Right, but I'm fading away.
Yeah, but okay. Well, actually, I don't think I've accomplished enough to fade away. And when I do accomplish, I will make sure that I burn out. Or maybe I'll just like retire and just watch myself on television.
Hold that,
on the WWE Network on Peacock.
John Kasawa is his
just have to
name.
watch Blade Runner over and over.
It's about family. So here comes the best part. So Rachel comes out, "Don't you love me?" And you could see in Harrison Ford's face, this is the first time he's acted in decades, you could see that he is so close to looking at this replicant and being like,
take the deal.
I'm gonna take the deal. I'm gonna, and then the most genius moment, I hate that it's Harrison Ford's moment.
Her eyes were green.
The second most genius, the most genius moment is the eruption of emotion by Kay. He just turns away, and he realizes there's a defect because he knows Rachel better than these people ever could. They have all these files on her, exactly how she's
burned
made.
into his mind in a way that maybe is inhuman.
Well, that's another genius, but we'll get to it. So he just puts his head down and says, her eyes were green. And Wallace, the quasi-sexy henchwoman blows her fucking brains out, and Rachel's body violently hits the floor.
They blow her away.
Blow her away.
She just blows apart. Their guns are just as devastating. And let's talk for a second about the guns when we do use them in this movie.
Oh man,
this was something that was a big part of Blade Runner 1. Blade Runner 1.
That awesome gun.
Some of the best looking visions of the future we'd seen, and prominent among them was Deckard's gun. And one of the things that made Deckard's gun so cool was that it was not a futuristic gun, it was a hybrid. If you look closely at Deckard's gun, the handle is of wood, and it's a revolver of sorts, but it's got all sorts of sheathing and a new barrel. And perhaps the cylinders are overboard, and the revolver cylinder is different. And it fires very, very different and very, very lethal explosive bullets that do an enormous amount of damage. We see Harrison Ford use this gun to great effect in Blade Runner 1, where he just blows Zora apart. Then the gun is thrown out of his hands by Leon, who confronts him and fights him, and Leon is then killed by Rachel, which is sort of seals them as lovers, or at least fated to have something.
She was there when he needed him the most.
He saved her. He was about to die. A great moment in the movie. How long do I have to live? 4 years. Longer than you.
That's a good line.
And at that moment, and it's a great line, and it's not in the book.
I vaguely remember the book.
Ridley Scott wrote that. I mean, Ridley Scott's screenwriter. He bought the story from Philip K. Dick.
Yeah.
Now, he had the right to use any dialogue he wanted, but I don't think he used much at all, if any.
Well, Philip K. Dick was brought to the set before he passed away, and he basically signed off and said, "That's exactly what I was thinking." Which is kind of, I think his words were, "Wow, you got it."
He could only speak to the aesthetic. There wasn't he knew it was going to be his story, but he couldn't know how it was going to turn out. Yeah. So, and I'm going to say this about 2049. Here's the thing that it has on.
We're near the climax. Well, I don't think there's a climax. We're near the end now.
Okay, you know what?
We'll wrap it up.
Get to the end of the movie, and then I'll make my points.
All right, so
of why I don't like this movie as a Blade Runner.
Well, I'm about to explain what my biggest gripe is with the movie.
Joy.
It's real. Oh, we didn't even talk about Joy. So of course, during the struggle before Harrison Ford is brought to Wallace, the evil replicant steps on the thing, and Joy reaches out to Kay and says, "I love you," and then dies in mid "I love you." But then, we're going to speak about this now. So now they're going to take Deckard to get tortured to find out where the kid is because he didn't take the bait. And now Kay is on his way back to
I
Wallace.
have a funny feeling they would have tortured him anyway. Wallace
Imagine
is fucking weirdo.
you get to bang the
reminds me of-
26-year-old version of your wife, even though you're 70, and then
anybody would take that.
and then
right
we're gonna
now.
fucking kill you. Yeah, we're gonna kill you. So
You'd have to really hate your wife not to take that deal.
So Kay's on his way back and sees a hologram for Joy, an advertisement, and when he finds out that he may be human, she gives him a name, John, which is of course, which is a dumb name to give any human.
I agree.
Who names their kid John nowadays?
I actually really dislike that name. Yeah.
Oh well, good thing you have a cool last name, right, Admiral?
It's good that I have a cool first name.
Teagy. So he stumbles upon an advertisement for Joy, and of course he's like, "Hello, John." It's so it even takes the humanity out of his. This movie really pulls you left and right.
Deckard too is acting the shit out of this role too. By the way, he's
Well,
not chewing scenery at all. He's actually giving a really great, almost masterful performance, and it's pissed into the wind in some ways, and it's great in others.
Well, we're kind of joking because he just sits in a chair and talks.
No, I'm talking about Ryan Gosling.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, he gives a great performance.
He acts the fuck out of this
Oh,
movie.
no.
I've never seen him do anything
I hate to say this,
before.
my second favorite film of all time, Drive, starring Ryan Gosling. I think he actually has like maybe 17 lines in the entire film.
Now, while we're on the topic
when
of
this man isn't talking, he's great.
You know what? Now, just very quickly, on the topic of Ryan Gosling, just a thought. Since we're doing gender swap movies, gender swap Brokeback Mountain.
They should gender swap Notebook, where they're both dudes. And wait, no,
No, I want a gender swap Brokeback Mountain.
Well, you can't gender swap because there's
I
more
want
than two.
an all-female Brokeback Mountain. I would own that, depending upon who was casted.
But it's
How
still
about
Randy
Quaid. No, yeah,
it's Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie.
And I got this. You're gonna love this.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what's her name? Helen Mirren and Margot Robbie.
Now I want to. Yeah, I weirdly want to see that movie now. If you could swap out Helen Mirren for Meryl Streep, I might be more.
And
into
we're
the
still
movie.
having Randy
I don't
Quaid
know.
as the one who suspects something.
Meryl Streep, would you still?
I haven't. Me and Meryl haven't hung in a while, so we left on pretty bad terms.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, based on her looks.
Oh, like a superficial kumquat.
If there was like a bottle of booze involved, I would still do Meryl Streep.
Okay. That might be even more relevant than your Elvis rant.
No, the Elvis rant was directly about the movie. By the way, here's the thing.
I said it's more relevant.
We can tell Deckard, big fan of staring people deep in the eyes, because there's something about me you may not know.
What?
I have green eyes.
Oh, I can't. It's very dark on this.
You've known me for 20 years. It's very hard to tell when someone has green eyes.
That is Hazel. So,
green eyes are his eyes.
Kay is back. They're in a what's an away craft?
They're in a
away
runabout.
team. They're an away team.
Yeah, but it starts to look a lot like Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
What
here
can't?
and there.
What doesn't? A matter transporter is even mentioned in the Force Awakens by Harrison Ford.
Disney now owns that intellectual property.
Wonderful.
Yeah, they could. That's why the Loki show had the transporter, basically.
Jesus. Okay. So now Kay's there to rescue Deckard from being tortured. Should I even?
Yeah,
replicants.
This was when at this point of the movie, I'd fallen asleep every try.
Replicants can drown, so they killed the two pilots that have already made the sacrifice. Look that one up. Quasi-sexy replicant lady has Deckard handcuffed. They're in this wave pool.
She was very sexy.
She looked like a robot.
The haircut didn't do her any favors.
I'm telling you, she was more appealing.
A robot. That was cool.
It doesn't matter how female. She's not supposed to be appealing. She's supposed to look like a killer.
She's not there to be.
She's there to be a killer.
That's why she's in a white T-shirt in the water.
No, I didn't even explain how she kills Robin Wright. So
she's a really cool murderer. She
that
has
is
a cool murdering
that
style.
Is a death.
You got to describe that killing.
Oh no, we're gonna get to the end first.
Fucks with her for a while first.
She has a glass of booze and then the replicant, the sexy replicant, grabs her hand and breaks the
Robin
glass
Wright's-
in Robin Wright's hand and just keeps squeezing to find out where Kay is, and she doesn't give him up, which actually probably relates even more to your theory that they totally fucked. So, speaking of totally fucked,
She was on top. Kay's
So-
very submissive.
yes, fingers, yeah. What is he gonna do? Go to the cops?
Interlinked.
Interlinked. Three fingers are in there. Interlinked.
Cells
Interlinked.
inside cells inside cells. I fucking came to hate those sequences. There was one
I
too
might
many.
no, there's two, which is enough. The setup and the
one
payoff.
was too much.
All right. Well, you need it for the setup and the payoff.
Just wait.
This
Tampa.
movie has setups, and payoffs
Just
because
VK
it's an
the
actual.
mother.
It's because it's an actual fucking film
He's a skin
without
job,
lasers
VK
going
him.
into the sky.
But we find out in the movie the VK still works.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So why interlinked?
Now we're in the spacecraft. They kill the pilots. They're in this wave pool. And Kay is viciously
They're in a
fighting.
space limo SUV.
It's a very
in
pretty.
a wave
it's a really
pool.
yeah.
It's got beautiful white leather upholstery.
It is
and
beautiful.
a wet bar. But they are killing each other in it, and they're killing the fuck out of each other, and it's rolling in the surf, and it is a pretty cool place to have a sci-fi fight.
And you know what? It wasn't a big set piece. There was tension, and of course it ends with the worst way to die, which is drowning.
With 7 meters long by like 4 meters wide.
So
2
Kay,
meters wide even.
something like that. Kay drowns the quasi sexy hench lady and saves Harrison Ford.
Now we can just run another one of her off the fucking Xerox machine back home.
Oh yeah, exactly.
No big deal.
So
just cut and paste a new one.
So now that we put together who the daughter is, the memory maker that was laying it on thick. So now Kay says to Deckard, now you can see your daughter. It's like, how?
And Kay has taken a fatal jab here.
Oh, he's been stabbed several times and shot.
And he's not doing much to help himself out.
Well, he doesn't really care because he experienced what it's like to be human, so I think he dies happily, or maybe he
Which
doesn't.
is weird because it's like, I've got this humanity, this life I strove for through all my artificialness, so now I just gotta see it through by dying 1 minute after I get it.
Well, most of my relationships that I've been in my life, I've enjoyed way after they've been over, because while I was in them, wow.
I've had relationships that lasted less time than that movie.
I know exactly how you feel.
That movie.
Wow,
was
2019
really
was rough and great for me. Sorry, that was what we call in the wrestling business a shoot. So,
and some people have had relationships that have lasted from the first movie to the second one. If anyone got married during the first movie's
30
release
years.
and divorced during the second movie's release, we want to hear from you.
My parents got married the exact year that Blade Runner came out, and they're still going. They're still going.
Congratulations to the Petties.
So, Harrison Ford's now told, Deckard's now told you can go see your daughter, and it's like, how? It's like, well, you died in that accident. So, here's where the convenience theory...
Who gives him this? Wallace?
Wallace is still alive.
They hacked this stuff
Wallace wants to find out where this fucking kid is.
Is this related to the trip to the androgynous library where they have no information?
So Wallace is still alive, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying,
am I wrong?
Where did they get this clue from? It was at the Library of Non-Information.
They put two and two together.
Where they keep records of all the non-records they don't have.
You know what the biggest
that
tell
part
was?
bothered me.
The memory maker girl. I could tell. What really gave me a feeling that she was Rachel and Deckard's daughter is because she looks exactly like someone that would be. The casting is amazing.
She looks like a female.
She looks like a female Harrison Ford with some Sean Young features.
I was gonna say she looks like a female Timothy Chalamet.
Like Kylo Ren. I'm like, that's definitely Han Solo's son. He looks like fucking.
He's nowhere near as handsome as Harrison Ford, but he looks like he could be.
He looks like
He looks like if he put it through. If you filtered it through Carrie Fisher, it would end up looking like Kylo Ben.
I can't. I'm sorry, I'm saying this on
J.J. Abrams known for great casting.
You know what?
Seriously, that's what saves a lot of his shit.
He's not.
He is in his TED Talk, which you can find my dissection of on this YouTube channel. He says stuff like when he was doing Lost, if a really good actor came on just to like hand someone a soda, he was like. Sometimes, like, you would see someone hand someone a soda, and they'd be like, the masterfulness of the soda handing. And then he would just build a plot arc around this person until he until he played out all their acting talent, and he would latch on to some other person. He was a weirdo.
Because he can play out people's futures, but he can't play out a
But this
fucking
movie
story.
had you know what? This was before J.J. Abrams was exposed, and I think that Denis Villeneuve was consciously imitating him, thinking it was a good idea, and it wasn't.
I disagree. Wait, constantly imitating who?
Consciously imitating Abrams.
You need to really jump off of J.J. Abrams'
First of all,
cop.
is there not a canon wipe in this movie?
I don't know.
We have a trip
You're
to
right.
the library of non-records, where we keep records of all the records that we don't have. Why the fuck does that place exist?
Why does this movie have to take place in Los Angeles? Why does this movie have to have Deckard in it? It's because this is.
It doesn't all take place in Los
If
Angeles.
this movie
Some of
was
it
written
takes
by
place in Las Vegas.
If this movie was written by a replicant, it would be perfect, but it wasn't. So anyway,
This movie
Harrison
did feel
Ford.
like it was written by an AI at some points.
Harrison Ford goes to visit his daughter, and he puts his hand on the thing, and then Vangelis' theme from the first movie plays.
It's nice.
Kay probably dies on the stairs.
Probably.
End movie.
But we can make a new K too.
We can make that's what my whole. So this movie probably takes place over the course of maybe like 5-6 days.
A much longer time frame than movie one.
That could be like 48 hours. Plus, it
Movie
always takes
one,
place at night.
I'm sticking with 36 because he sleeps once, and we kind of never leave him. The camera's
Yeah.
with him the whole time. We see him eat. The only thing we don't see him do is pee.
Yeah, we never really see that in movies unless there's a death scene.
I mean, he comes out of his bathroom and he's wiping his hands. Also, I was wrong. There are newspapers in the movie. The very first moment we see Deckard, he's reading a newspaper. And the narration is fucking horrible.
4.
They don't advertise for what I do in newspapers.
Oh man.
Oh god.
I've only watched the movie, the first Blade Runner with the narration once.
You're from the entire
'cause I had to.
generation that grew up with the different version.
No, well, there's
one unified different version that we've moved away from.
In 2007, there were a total, I believe, 7 versions of this film.
So
Sincerely.
really, there's 8 with the final cut, but the
Final Cut counts
the
as number
final
7.
cut, okay.
There
So the
is.
final
Let
cut-
me try to work through them. Well, actually, how about we wrap up our discussion of 24/9? Now, I think this movie's
Well,
fucking.
I have to rebut a few points, but yeah.
I would like you to go first. Then I want you to tell me why this
All
is
right,
not a
this
good Blade
is-
Runner sequel,
this is
the perfect
good
Blade Runner
movie.
sequel.
And
It's a great
pretty immersive, and it's cool to go back to this Blade Runner world. And what really fucking wrecked this movie was bringing in Harrison Ford.
Agreed.
The Rachel storyline was good, but it was like not the direction you wanted to go. And then the other thing that killed this movie was pandering, and some of it was more blatant than the stuff I can't prove that I just sort of feel is pandering.
What
it
else
was
do you feel is
outright pandering to, but good pandering because this is what we wanted to know. I just thought it was rather inartfully done. When we explored the lives of the replicant,
Okay.
that is actually the loudest thing people were yelling to hear and say.
Yeah. Okay.
So he gave the people what they want.
Which is like I said, I was almost like pissed. I'm like, how am I going to relate to this person? And they fixed that for me during the course of the movie. Maybe that's why I went.
I never related to Kay.
I definitely
I
related
liked
to Kay.
the journey I was following him on, but I was like, okay, robot boy. But I liked it that way. And I would just point out, if we sent out a Predator drone to kill like a deadly Taliban guy, that would probably still, even though it was a takeoff, one quick shoot that lasts a minute, and then like the thing comes home for an hour, that'd probably still be 3 hours of video that we'd watch and enjoy, and analyze here for 9, but that's not the point.
Wonderful.
It kind of just, it comes up a little short in the Robot Lives because it put it too front and center. It made you conscious.
Perfect.
The thing is, it put a bell on this thing. It hung a lantern on this thing, right? And then it was just like, the android's life, it kind of sucks. And like, to be an android in this world, and this is the thing. Here's the thing. I'm going to bring it home with this.
Okay.
This is not a Blade Runner movie sequel. This is an all-encompassing Philip K. Dick meta movie filtered through his most successful kind of movie. And Denis Villeneuve had all sorts of plans for this movie. He was going to make a few Blade Runner movies, and it was going to be Star Wars, it was going to be The Matrix, and I wish it had been, because it starts a worthy conversation, and my issues with the movie are, It gets hacked off at the end. He didn't make any... And I feel that as a filmmaker, that's cheap. George Lucas didn't know he was going to be able to make a second Star Wars movie. Splinter of the Mind's Eye was the novel sequel that he hoped to make.
I cannot wait to read that. I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. It was
written before the movie was released.
The Splinter of the Mind's Eye is probably the coolest sentence I've ever heard in my life.
It's a really
Other than sure,
it's a
I
really
guess I'll put my mouth
powerful
on it.
crystal, and it doesn't have Han Solo in it. And I think maybe he rewrote it just a little more after he knew he wasn't going to use it as the. But it's a high quality read, and I read it before Empire Strikes Back came out. The thing is that novel was ready before Star Wars was released. Yeah, George Lucas was thinking big. He also had a toy line ready to go.
Oh, you mean he actually had an ending for this movie? He had an ending?
He had an Star Wars for a standalone movie, and this movie does not stand alone.
What, Blade Runner 2049?
It doesn't end. It stops.
Well,
there's no ending. There's a stop.
I see where you're coming from because
we drop in and out of this movie.
Where's the replicant uprising? Where's Wallace? What happens with Harrison Ford? But if you're going to continue with this, who is your protagonist? Does Kay live?
Are we going to try to redeem Wallace? Is he going to continue to be like this evil bad guy?
Well, that's another thing about this movie that kind of gets me. That one thing that's missing.
Stakes, because we can pop a new person of everyone except Deckard out of a mold, and maybe Deckard too.
The human characters are even more robotic than Kay. The most human character is Joy.
You're right, and maybe
which kind of takes me out of it.
Maybe that's what I'm getting at when you say it's a great movie, and I say it's very cleverly done.
I think it's great.
It's very cleverly done.
The themes of appreciating emotions and what it is to be human alone in this film.
You know who appreciated emotion? Coco.
That's probably the best way to close this, Admiral.
This is the end of part 2 of our ongoing series of discussions about Blade Runner Meta World Universe. Now, we talked about the second movie first because we're unconventional kind of guys, and we're going to do things differently. And it would have made sense to do the first movie first, but that's what normal people do.
Yeah, and guess
We're
what?
gonna
Maybe we'll even
reverse
mislabel the videos.
And
you're
you know
going to
what?
listen to all of them anyway.
This is we hope you will. And we want to thank everyone who stopped by and listened and spent even 1 minute with us. And I want to thank all 53 people who've joined up. And if you're one of them, you're still listening to me now. So I thank you. And I cherish you. And Captain Petty, he appreciates you too. Because everyone we add, every ship that joins this fleet, we will get closer and closer to saving Star Trek, which is our mission. This imperfect movie that's still well worth seeing, Blade Runner 2049.
This is the Star Trek sequel that we're going to need.
Alexa.
Dennis, dump that Dune shit and get on that Star Trek.
Alexa, where was Denis Villeneuve born?
Here's what I found.
Nancy Vallon was born in Brooklyn.
Well, how do you say his name?
Alexa, where was the director of Blade Runner 2049 born?
Here is an answer from Alexa.
Ridley Scott was born in...
All right, this...
Denis Villeneuve is Italian?
No, it's a different name.
Oh, it's the porno version of Blade Runner. Blade Comer. Okay,
all right.
Before we sign off, I've been asking
already.
everyone this question this week. We're signed off when I first stopped the record button. I'm asking everyone this question this week. Worf's penis. The ridges of a warrior?
I just wonder if it is as hairy as. I'm not worried about the ridges.
And I'm imagining the gold sash on it as well.
Listen, I've always wanted more about Klingon sex more than anything in sci-fi.
Well,
it's
not
obvious
New Trek's
the
Klingons.
thing's penis is either non-existent or made of rock.
You know, we came across a new Trek Klingon who had escaped
And
from
Reed
Kami.
Richards' penis can stretch.
We came across a Klingon from New Trek who had escaped from Commodore
And J.J.
Kurtzman.
Abrams' penis doesn't shoots out endings.
J.J. Abrams. I don't think does J.J. Abrams. Alexa, how many children does J.J. Abrams have?
J.J. Abrams has 3 children.
Why? So we shouldn't be able to get that information.
Alexa, where are J.J. Abrams' children right now?
Are J.J. Abrams' children replicants?
Alexa, what kind of car is best for kidnapping people? No, don't do anything.
Is it too
Look,
bad she won't live? But then again, who does?
Who does? Listen, maybe I edited this part out.
Maybe edit everything out. Edit.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, man.
And we will see you next time on the Admiral Teag Show. And this concludes part 2 of Blade Runner. We're going to talk about the first movie next.